Before we begin, it's important to understand the context of what follows. Viewer discretion is advised due to the sensitive nature of the material. The audio that accompanies this narration is a dramatized reading of actual public court proceedings from a federal case held on May 19th and 20th, 2025. The testimonies and statements come directly from courtroom reporting and reflect details provided by both legal teams and witnesses involved in the case. The witness referred to as David James is a real individual who provided critical testimony. To respect privacy and legal standards, some language has been modified or censored in compliance with YouTube's community guidelines. The material has not been altered to sensationalize events or taken out of context. This is a narrated recount of publicly available testimony. Special thanks go to Intercity Press on X, formerly Twitter, for sharing early court transcripts, which allowed for a more accurate retelling. Importantly, all individuals mentioned are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Please proceed with caution and critical awareness. The government calls David James. The beginning of the testimony. The courtroom fell silent as the prosecution called David James to the witness stand. A man once operating behind the scenes of one of the biggest names in music, James was about to reveal insights into a world of glitz, power, and shadows that few had ever glimpsed. The atmosphere was tense. Everyone knew the stakes were high, not just for the case, but for the reputations of those involved. When asked to state why he was there, James calmly responded that he had been subpoenaed. This simple admission marked the beginning of a long and complex testimony that would unfold over several hours, touching on the inner workings of Sean Combs's personal and professional life between 2007 and 2009. James's presence in court was no surprise. He was known to those in the industry as Combs's personal assistant during a time when the mogul's influence in music, fashion, and business was reaching its zenith. His testimony promised to offer a rare, first-person account of not only the day-to-day demands placed on Combs's entourage, but also the darker, more controversial episodes that had since attracted legal scrutiny. Early career and entry into the industry. David James's path to the music industry was neither direct nor glamorous at first. Raised in a working-class neighborhood where opportunity was scarce and dreams often deferred, James developed a resilient work ethic from an early age. His upbringing instilled in him the belief that hard work and determination could break the cycle of hardship. After high school, he pursued higher education in Michigan, attending college with a focus on business and communications. Though his academic performance was solid, it was his passion for music and entertainment culture that truly defined his ambitions. Upon graduating, James sought to enter the entertainment industry, an arena known for its competitiveness and often opaque hiring practices. Armed with a carefully prepared resume, he faxed his application to Bad Boy Records, the record label founded by Sean Combs. Bad Boy was synonymous with urban music success and cultural influence, representing some of the era's biggest stars. Landing a position there was a coveted opportunity, but also meant navigating a high-pressure environment where expectations were sky-high. His interview was held in Bad Boy's headquarters on 1700 Broadway, New York City, a building buzzing with creative energy and business negotiations. There, James met Tommy, a key administrative figure, and Tommy's sister, Keisha, along with several others who managed the label's demanding daily operations. Unlike typical interviews, James's test was practical and immediate. Handed a list of 40 appointments, he was asked to create a coherent, efficient schedule. This task wasn't just about time management. It required detailed knowledge of the music industry's pulse, such as the precise air times of popular shows on influential stations like Hot 97, which was central to hip-hop promotion. When asked why he believed he was suited for the assistant role, James's response was emblematic of his mindset. Can't stop, won't stop. This phrase, embodying relentless drive and persistence, reflected both his personal ambition and the demanding nature of the work ahead. It was a phrase that would come to symbolize not only his own ethos, but the intense pace of life within Combs's inner circle. A day in the life, behind the scenes of stardom. Once hired, James quickly found himself immersed in an exhausting schedule that few outsiders would ever comprehend. His role as Sean Combs's assistant was not a typical office job. It was a 24/7 commitment to ensuring that one of the world's most prominent entertainers could function amid a whirlwind of obligations. James's days often stretched to 20 hours or more, blending logistical coordination with personal service. His duties spanned managing complex itineraries, booking travel arrangements, and anticipating Combs's needs before they were voiced. Nights were frequently spent at the recording studio, sometimes until 3 a.m. or later, overseeing sessions and handling last-minute requests. Dinners with Combs and other team members blurred the lines between professional and social, as business discussions and entertainment mingled in equal measure. Travel was a constant, whether jetting between New York, Miami, London, or exotic destinations like Ibiza and Saint-Tropez. Every trip required meticulous planning, especially given the high-profile nature of the clients involved and the ever-present security concerns. Security personnel, including Derek Bonds and a figure known only as Uncle Polly, were ever present, creating an invisible but firm boundary around Combs and his entourage. James recalled security advising him repeatedly to "stay in my lane," a phrase that encapsulated the strict hierarchies and coded boundaries within the team, as well as the intense scrutiny each member faced. The pressure was relentless. There was no room for error or personal indulgence. James's narrative conveyed the relentless grind behind the glamorous facade of celebrity, illustrating the sacrifices and stresses endured by those charged with managing such a demanding figure. The personal sphere, relationships, and control. Beyond the professional demands, James's testimony shed light on the complicated personal relationships that defined Combs's private life. Women like Kim Porter, Sarah Tara, Jana, and Cassie were more than names. They were intertwined with Combs's public image and private affairs. Their roles and relationships were complex, mixing affection, power dynamics, and business. James's first encounter with Cassie was particularly revealing. At Star Island, a well-known luxury retreat, Cassie confided in him with a rare openness. She described feeling trapped and controlled by Combs, saying, "Sean controls my life, my music. He pays for my apartment." This candid admission revealed a stark imbalance in their relationship, one where financial dependence came with significant personal constraints. Further complicating matters, James overheard Combs referring to Cassie as young and moldable, a phrase that suggested a calculated exertion of influence over her choices and career. These insights exposed a darker aspect of celebrity culture, where control could be exerted subtly and pervasively, raising questions about autonomy and exploitation. Observations and secrets. The Miami incident. James's testimony grew more intense as he recounted specific incidents that went beyond his official duties. One such episode occurred in Miami, where James was asked to deliver food and personal items to Combs's hotel room. Using a key he had been given, James entered the room and was surprised to find Cassie lying on the bed, while another man, described as tall, with long hair and a notably large physical presence, quickly left the scene and retreated into the shower. This unexpected encounter left James uneasy. He felt he had stepped into a private moment he was not meant to witness, underscoring the blurred boundaries between his role as an assistant and the personal dramas unfolding around him. When questioned about these details, James was careful to clarify that he was not hired to probe into or interfere with Combs's personal life, a reminder of the often ambiguous position assistants occupy in the world of celebrity. Involvement with drugs and security measures. The narrative took a darker turn when James spoke about his involvement in procuring controlled substances for Combs. He admitted to picking up Percocet prescriptions, sometimes in his own name, though he was unsure if he had given explicit permission for this. This admission highlighted the complicated, sometimes legally fraught tasks assistants are asked to perform, duties that may blur ethical and legal boundaries in high-stakes environments. James also mentioned a drug dealer known as One Stop, a figure who reportedly had connections reaching as far as former President Barack Obama. This detail injected an unexpected political dimension into the story, hinting at the pervasive reach of illicit networks even among the elite. At parties, James confessed to using ecstasy while drinking, describing his behavior as Diddy bopping, a term he used to evoke carefree, perhaps reckless dancing. He recalled Combs reviewing video footage of these events with an eye toward potential leverage. "I'm going to keep the video in case I ever need it," Combs had said, suggesting an undercurrent of control and intimidation even in moments of revelry. Security and suspicion. The missing bracelet incident. A key episode of suspicion involved a missing bracelet. Security figure. Uncle Polly conducted a thorough search of James's hotel room, including the belongings of his girlfriend at the time. This invasive search was emblematic of the atmosphere of mistrust and control that pervaded the entourage. James was questioned about whether he could refuse such a search, but the judge swiftly cut off the line of inquiry, signaling the intense pressure witnesses felt under cross-examination. This incident highlighted how even close associates could become targets of suspicion, underscoring the high-stakes environment where loyalty was constantly tested. Polygraph tests and intimidation. James's testimony also detailed the emotional toll exacted by repeated lie detector tests. He described the experience as intimidating, with electrodes affixed to his head, chest, and hand, designed to monitor every physiological response as he answered questions. These tests were conducted to assess his truthfulness regarding various allegations, including the theft of Combs's watch and involvement in jewelry heists. The pressure was immense, and James admitted his nervousness, despite his efforts to remain composed. The polygraph episodes underscored the high-stress nature of the proceedings and the psychological strain placed on those entangled in the case. The Mel's Diner incident. Confrontation and danger. One of the most dramatic moments in James's testimony involved an incident at Mel's Diner, a seemingly ordinary place that became a stage for tension and potential violence. James recounted driving a silver Navigator to the diner, where he unexpectedly encountered Sue Knight, a figure connected to the case. Initially, Sue Knight did not recognize James, but upon learning his identity as Biggie's boy, the atmosphere shifted. Suddenly, 4 black SUVs appeared, positioning themselves strategically around the parking lot. James witnessed a handshake between Sue Knight and another individual involving a gun, a gesture heavy with implication and threat. Reacting quickly, security advised James to leave immediately. They retreated to a nearby house, where James found Cassie visibly upset and Combs sitting with 3 guns resting on his lap. The presence of firearms and the palpable tension conveyed a world of danger and volatility lurking beneath the surface of celebrity life. Remarkably, James felt a sense of calm, partly reassured by the color of the vehicle, and hope that the black SUVs would not track their movements. Clarifications and closing questions. In the final stages of questioning, James addressed several clarifications. He insisted on his sobriety during key moments and described how his mental acuity was maintained despite grueling 20-hour shifts. The defense pressed him on specific memories, details about interactions, and logistical aspects of his duties. James recounted the numerous international trips with Combs to Ibiza, London, Saint-Tropez, places that combined business with lavish leisure. Each trip required careful planning and security coordination, reflecting the intense logistical challenges of managing a global celebrity's schedule. His testimony concluded with reflections on the demanding nature of his role, working late into the night and witnessing firsthand the pressures, complexities, and occasional dangers inherent in serving one of the most famous entertainers of the 21st century. Conclusion: a window into a hidden world. David James's testimony offered the court and public a rare glimpse behind the polished image of celebrity into a world defined by relentless work, power imbalances, and hidden dangers. His candid and detailed account exposed the grueling demands on those tasked with managing such a high-profile figure, the controlling and sometimes manipulative dynamics within Combs's inner circle, and the ever-present undercurrent of fear and suspicion. Through his testimony, James painted a nuanced picture of loyalty and survival, highlighting the complexity of life in the shadows of fame, where personal boundaries blur and the cost of association can be as high as the rewards.